Well, I'd just been hired with the Asheville Fire Department, and my captain was Butch Calloway, and he was a beekeeper, and I kind of ran into him one day, and he was heading to his dad's house out on Dibble Road and said, "Hey, there's a bee swarm I got to go catch. You want to help me?" And I'd never done it before. I said, "Sure, why not?" And I had a lot of fun doing it and catching the swarm. And after about a year or so of helping him out, he was getting ready to retire from the fire department, and he asked if I wanted to take over because he had other things he wanted to do. So he just gave me all of his bee stuff, gave me hives and suits and smokers and an extractor, and went out to his house, picked it up, grabbed his hives and brought them to my house, and just kind of started carrying on the tradition of what Butch Calloway taught me. As the hives grow, during the spring, there's an explosion of activity in the hives, and the queen starts laying very quickly. And as the population grows, sometimes they grow faster than they can build a new hive. So a hive will split, it'll swarm. And what it does is when it gets crowded in there, the worker bees decide to have another queen grown. So they build a queen cell, they raise a new queen, and the queen will take flight and leave, and about half of the bees will follow her. And they'll fly around, it'll look like a black cloud going through the sky, and they'll hive up or swarm up on a branch. And you'll see them about 6 to 8 feet off the ground. Sometimes they'll be on the front door of a house or on a rearview mirror of a car. They like those spots for some reason. And they'll swarm up there, and they just kind of hang out there for a few hours until they find a new place to make a home. And when people call when those swarms are, that's easy pickings there. You just walk up with a box and just, I mean, you can with bare hands just brush them down into the box, because their focus is so much on the queen, they really don't care about anything else. They're just very calm, they're very relaxed. So that's the easiest way to catch hives, is during swarm season. And I get a few calls a year about, you know, people calling, "Hey, there's a swarm at my house," and everything. And my wife, when she walks the dogs in the morning, last year she found, I think, about 6 swarms where these swarmed up. And they were caught in the trees here, where there's enough, you just go up on a step ladder and you'd grab them, or they were hanging on this tree once last year. Other ways, you know, people call for a nuisance hive, a hive that's made a house, or made their home inside of a house. That's a little more complicated to get out, because you have to remove walls and everything else. And, it does bring a point, and this is something that people ask me all the time. I'd like to talk about. People say all the time it's against the law to kill a honeybee, or kill a honeybee hive. That's not true. There's no law that says you cannot kill a honeybee hive. It's discouraged. You don't want to kill them, and a lot of exterminators refuse to kill them because on the chemicals they have, or the chemical bottles, it says not to be used on honeybees, things like that. If you kill a honeybee hive in your house, you might kill the hive, but all that honey and wax stays behind. And without the bees defending that, then you're going to have a rodent problem, mice are going to come in, you're going to have ant problems and things like that. So if you do have a beehive in your house, you kind of have to remove the entire hive. Insects, honey, wax, everything.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I've done it. It's labor intensive, it takes a while. And the people I've done it for, they've been under the understanding that there's no easy way of doing it without pulling walls open and things like that. And I've only really done it for friends. I don't do it for strangers, just because in this day and age, people get too sue happy. And if you open up someone's wall, they might say, "Hey, you never said you're going to do that," and I don't need the aggravation of that. So you're supposed to get in the hives weekly. I don't do it that often. They're a wild animal, and they don't need me poking around in their house. The way I explain to the kids when I talk to the kids at Lakeshore Primary is I talk to them that this is a bee's house just like your house, and if I came to your mom and dad's house and took the roof off, it'd make your mom and dad mad, and they'd get angry and do bad things. When you get into the hives and you start pulling the hives apart, you know, they get upset, and you know, you're breaking all the work they've done and everything. I kind of watch the outside of the hives to know when things need to get done. On the front of the hives, if they start getting crowded, you'll see that they'll beard up, and it actually looks like a man's beard on the front of the hive. If I start seeing that happen a couple days in a row, I know that they're starting to get crowded, and I'll come out and I'll put an extra super on, which is the chunks of the hive, or the levels of the hive you see there. And every time they start getting crowded, you throw another super on. There's pest control you have to do with the hives. There's a thing called a varomite, that's a mite that's affecting a lot of the bees. There's chemicals you can use to kill the varomite. I use a natural way, where I have a thing called a drone frame, which is drones are the male bees in the hives. It's a larger cell, and the veromites, for whatever reason, like that cell. And since you don't really need male bees in a hive but for one thing, and that one thing only happens once a year, or actually once a lifetime of the queen, the males are kind of expendable. So I'll take that male drone frame, and once it's capped, I'll stick it in the freezer, and that kills off a huge amount of veromites. So I'm using the pest control without using insecticides and things like that. Yeah, I have a suit, and depending on the time of year and everything else, sometimes I wear a suit, sometimes I don't. They're pretty calm right now, and they're pretty active because we finally have a really nice sunny day. So their whole goal right now is just going to get nectar. So they really don't care about much anything else. We could probably lift a lid off and look if you wanted to, and you know, I might go get some gloves or something like that. But normally, if I'm going to get into the hive to get honey, yeah, I'd wear my suit because you're really digging into the hive at that point. The frames that you see, and there's one here. This is the result of a bear that got into our hives about 2 weeks ago. This was honey on both sides, but there's cell holes on each side. The bees will pull wax out on each side of this, and I actually have a frame in the house I can show you that's full of honey. But what you do is you take a hot knife and you take the cap off each side, and then this frame will drop down into a barrel and it spins. It's called an extractor, and as it spins, centrifugal force pulls the honey out. It goes against the walls and then drips down through a hole in the bottom, and then you bottle it. So
how much honey can you get in there?
Well, it all depends on the year. There's been some years where I've pulled, I don't know, 10 to 12 gallons off each hive. You know, and then I pushed them hard, and you know, we had good weather.
You're talking about 60 gallons.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a lot of honey off of hives if you push them hard. And you can also, I only extract one time a year, or get honey once a year. Some people harvest throughout the year depending on what flowers are blooming. Some people like buckwheat honey or clover honey, and it all blooms at different times of the year. So if you want to have that specific honey, you have to harvest right after the flower's gone. But yeah, I mean, I think on average I get about 5 gallons a year, and then I just give it to family and friends and stuff. I've never sold my honey at all.
So this isn't a money-making.
Oh no, anybody that's in it at this size, and about anybody in this area that's in it, they're not making money. We don't have the massive orchards like the almond groves and things like out west, where semi trucks pull in with hives, and they're pollinating 100 acres of trees. Everyone around here, for the most part, they're just doing it because they like it and it's something to do. When that bear came in, you know, when you look at a hive like this hive here, including the bees, the wax foundation, and everything, it's probably close to $300 or $400 for that small little hive. I purchased bees from a gentleman who has a grape vineyard in Fredonia, New York, and he goes down to Georgia every year, and he'll call me and say, I'm making a run, do you want any bees? And you know, I've picked them up the past years, and they cost anywhere from $75 to $100 for 3 pounds of bees, and that's with one queen, and it comes in a little box with screens, and that's, you know, that's about it. I like catching swarms because that's free money hanging off the tree. Yeah. Bees are the staple of the food chain. Depending on what you read, some people say that up to 90% of our food, if it wasn't for bees, we would not have it. I don't know how true that is. I just know what these bees do around here, and that's, you know, buzzing flower to flower, and they take care of our garden and everything.
So you have better garden and better flowers, maybe because you have the bees?
Well, maybe. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you, to be honest, if it's true or not. I know a lot of the larger, like I said, those guys that pull in with the semi trucks of bees that are taking care of the almond orchards and stuff, they're saying that they're experiencing large hive loss and things. And depending on what you read, some people say it's because of pesticides. Other people say it's because it's an unnatural way for the bees to get food. You know, they're used to getting food from 1,000 different types of flowers, and when they take all those bees into one place, like an almond grove, the bees are only getting nutrients from one type of flower.
So do you like honey?
I love it. That's I laugh when I go to the school and talk to the kids. I said, you know, this is no offense to your moms and dads and their jobs and everything, but if your dad is a mechanic and when he's done for the day, he's got to scrub and get the grease off. So when I'm done working in the bees, I lick my fingers clean and I'm good to go. It's all done. My old style suit I had, I could actually lift my hood, and as I was working in the bees, I'd just break a piece of comb off and throw it in my mouth and chew it, and you get that burst of honey to begin with, and then after that you start getting that wax, and it's like bubble gum, and you just sit there and chew honey flavored wax while you're working in the hives. And yeah, I love honey. It's, you know, it's obvious I like honey. But yeah, it's a good thing. And you know, my family likes it. The kids put it on a lot of stuff. My mother-in-law, she loves the stuff. Every time I spin, everyone's, hey, you know, can I have some of that? Sure. So spread the word.
What do you have to do to process? You process the honey at all?
Well, there's some people that will pasteurize the honey. Most people in our area, they like the raw honey. So pretty much the people that get honey from me, when I hand them the jar, and it's usually just a mason jar, you know, I warn them, it's like, this is not processed honey, this is raw honey. So you might have a bee leg or two in there. You might have a few flecks of wax or something like that. When you process the honey, you take some of nature's goodness out of it, and you know, when you're heating it up and everything, you know, some of the benefits that Mother Nature gives us is, you know, right off the tree, right out of the ground. It's, you know, right out of the hive. Why do you want to mess with that? So when you know when you've done something bad in the hive, because it'll go from just a gentle buzz to like you're standing next to a train going by, just that zzz, and it's loud and it doesn't stop until you get them to calm down again. It's simplicity. You come out here and you get in the hives and it's just calming, and you get stung. It's one of those things that if you're afraid of getting stung, then don't do it, because you're going to get stung. And I try to explain to the kids that you know, the bees aren't doing anything. They're not mad at you. They're not, you know, picking on you. It's just their natural defense of things. When they sting, you just kind of brush it away and keep going about your work. And sometimes if you get stung multiple times, you step away and make sure you don't have a problem. When you first came down, I asked if you ever had an allergic reaction to bees. That's something that people say, oh, I'm not allergic to bees. Well, that's not true. Everyone is allergic to bees. That's why when you get stung, you have pain. Your body's reacting to that. It's an allergic reaction. It depends. The allergic reaction people think of is the severity of the reaction. And some people have an extremely severe reaction, just like peanuts and other things, you know, things like that. So anytime someone gets stung, and even when I get stung, you just kind of pay attention to what's going on. And if you start feeling things different, your tongue starts swelling, clothes feel tight, things like that, you know, maybe you need to go sit down and calm down and maybe call someone and say, hey, I got stung and I'm starting to feel a little different. And if it concerns you enough, you know, call for an ambulance, go to the emergency room, whichever you need to do. I was moving hives. I used to have all my hives out back, and there was a time that I was moving my hives, and I did it late in the season. I shouldn't have done it, but the hive was, they were stacked. They were probably about 5 or 6 stacked high. And what I did is I loaded the hives into the front of a bucket of a tractor, and I had them all strapped in. As I was bringing them up to this location, I hit a little hole with the tractor, and one of the hives fell over and it opened up, and that obviously made them very mad. And when I went down, I was trying to put the hive back together again. The bees were swarming on my hood, and I was trying to brush them away. Well, with my old hood system I had, my thumb caught, because you have leather gloves on, you can't feel it. My thumb caught my hood, and when I brushed my hand away, it pulled my hood off. And they swarmed me. I ran for my pool. I jumped in the pool, and the boys laugh at it now because they saw me running and they saw me jump in the water, and they said, hey Mom, Doug just jumped in the pool and there's bees all over him. So I stayed underwater for a little bit of time, and they finally went away, and my wife came out and they packed my neck in ice. But I got stung a couple dozen times up around my neck and my jaw. But around the tractor, with the tractor running, it was a diesel tractor, they actually stalled the tractor out because they swarmed the tractor engine and plugged up the air intake, and it stalled the tractor. So yeah, when they're mad at anything near them. They don't care what you are or who you are. They're gonna make you stop doing whatever it is that made them mad. So